Hi there Waltineers, I'm Jack and this is DSNY Newscast, and today we're going to be talking all about the Muppets and Rock and Roller Coaster in greater depth. But before we do, I just want to very briefly talk about Muppet Vision 3D, and that's because as of June 8th, 2025, Muppet Vision 3D is sadly no more. And I consider myself to be a pretty big Muppets fan. I love the music, the movies, the shows. I sing Rainbow Connection with my son every night before bed. And so the Muppets means a lot to me. And so when I heard the news that Muppet Vision 3D was being replaced, I was disappointed, and to be honest, a little bit surprised, because if you've done Muppet Vision 3D at any point in the last 5 years, you'll know that that attraction still pulls in an audience and fills up that theatre every time. And also, it is a timeless attraction, and believe it or not, it's as old as myself. It opened in 1991, but despite that, it's not showing signs of being dated in any way, and in my opinion at least, I put it up there with Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, the very best of the Disney park attractions. And that's me talking about it personally, but professionally speaking, we've got to talk about it from a business perspective and look at it from a different lens here. And maybe there's something that we don't know about this whole situation or equation that we're not even considering. Maybe it's the revenue from the merchandise that Monsters Inc. moves the needle a lot more than Muppets does. Maybe it's footfall for the attraction, or guest satisfaction surveys for the attraction, or maybe it's something that we're not even considering. Like, for an example, we've had Incredibles 3 and Coco 2 announced in the last year at Pixar. Maybe, I'm just speculating here, they've got a Monsters Inc. sequel in the works and they're going to grow that universe in a larger way, and so therefore they want a larger presence for Monsters Inc. at Hollywood Studios, which, by the way, they're building a Monsters Inc. door roller coaster, brand new one, out into the cast member parking area, which I'm very excited to see come to fruition. But I would have liked to see Muppet Vision stay and get updated rather than get replaced. And from a legacy perspective, it serves a very important purpose, because Muppet Vision 3D was the last fully completed creative work that Jim Henson worked on with the Muppets before he died. So it serves a very important purpose there. And I know Disney have already said that they're going to preserve the film in some way, and in May they did some sort of special filming of Muppet Vision 3D. Don't know what that's going to end up being, whether it's going to be just a 2D edition of Muppet Vision 3D, maybe put on Disney Plus, or maybe it'll be a virtual reality experience, because it is a 360 experience when you see Muppet Vision 3D. But at least they're preserving it in some way, and look, I'm ever the optimist. Hope springs eternal. I hope that we see Muppet Vision 3D come back in some form in the future. But that's where we stand with Muppet Vision 3D. But then that brings us to the topic for this video today, as it's not like the Muppets are going to be going anywhere. In actual fact, they're going to be getting a brand new home at Disney's Hollywood Studios, as they're going to be taking over Rock and Roller Coaster. And this is one of these attraction retheme projects which, on the face of it, you might think, how is that going to work? But I actually think this holds a lot of potential for this attraction here. So let's dive into everything we know so far about this project, because I don't see many people talking about it, and talk about how it could logically work for the Muppets and Rock and Roller Coaster. So first of all, this is what the official description says about this project. Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, and more of their friends will be moving right along to Sunset Boulevard. The Muppets will be taking over Rock and Roller Coaster and teaming up with some of music's biggest stars for a rockin' music festival. And there'll be laughter, screams, and new tunes for this attraction, and also plenty of Muppet-themed merchandise on Sunset Boulevard. So from that official description, we know that there'll be a large Muppet presence at Disney's Hollywood Studios still, just in a different corner of the park here. And then we come to the timeline aspect of this whole thing. So at the time of this recording, we don't know when Rock and Roller Coaster is going to be closing forever for this retheme. Supposedly, the artwork they've already released for this, it seems like they're going to be keeping the Rock and Roller Coaster name for this attraction. At least that's what's on the initial concept art poster for this project. It's going to still be Rock and Roller Coaster, but it just won't be starring Aerosmith. It'll be starring the Muppets. Now, in recent years, Rock and Roller Coaster has actually had quite a few lengthy refurbishments of the actual roller coaster system, and one of them was in 2023, from February 21st to May 26th of 2023, and then there was another one last year, January 8th through July 1st. So that was a good 6-month refurbishment for Rock and Roller Coaster. And the reason why I'm bringing up these refurbishments in particular is because if the actual ride system itself has been maintained and refurbished fairly recently, then the actual length of downtime for Rock and Roller Coaster at Hollywood Studios might not be nearly as long as we might think it might be from just, a huge retheme. If they've done all the work on the refurbishment of the track, it's just theming that gets switched out and changed. And much like we saw with the conversion of Tower of Terror to Mission Breakout in Disney California Adventure back in 2017, that was a 6-month refurbishment to change around the entirety of that attraction. And so could we be looking at something very similar in terms of a 6-month-long refurbishment and change out all the theming to Muppets for this? They could do a quick turnaround. They could even have it open for next year if they close it towards the end of this year and have it open for next year as the big summer opening. But we'll see what they're going to do, because I don't think they will want to take the Muppets away and keep them away for 1, 2, 3 years. I think it will be a fairly quick turnaround when this project gets going. Now, the other thing to consider here is that construction-wise, you've just had Villains Unfairly Ever After open in the Sunset Showcase Theatre, which obviously you need to go through the Rock and Roller Coaster courtyard to get to that brand new offering in terms of villains. So from a construction perspective, I imagine they're going to wall off just the front section of Rock and Roller Coaster, and we'll all be seeing the construction and change of theming for this whole attraction facade in real time as we walk past it. So they won't be able to hide it or close down a whole area. We will be able to see what's going on here. They've already filed for a permit on February 25th, 2025. That was for the Rock and Roller Coaster huge electric guitar to be repainted. They did something very similar to this back in 2021 when they repainted it to the classic red colour that it already is. I don't think it'll be repainted green to represent Kermit. They could, but I think it's more likely that it's going to get some sort of psychedelic paint job. As we see within the initial artwork they've already released, the roller coaster vehicles, seemingly for Rock and Roller Coaster, are going to get that kind of Electric Mayhem psychedelic paint job to the actual vehicles themselves to look different there. So I'm expecting that the larger-than-life electric guitar to get that kind of same paint job for the exterior of the attraction. And personally, I think that they'll do quite a bit to this courtyard. It will be kind of a new Muppets courtyard, have paint splatters and Animal Was Here written on certain parts, and they could reuse certain thematic elements from Muppets courtyard and bring them over and put them in certain places. I would love to see the Miss Piggy fountain get relocated within this new courtyard and salvaged in some way there. I also think that it's possible that we might see the Electric Mayhem tour bus turn up in the courtyard as well as a big set piece to kind of take photos in front of as well. Now, in terms of the theming for this attraction, I want to talk a little bit about this because I don't think they need to do much to make it extremely effective. And I'm talking about the loading bay area and on the ride itself. Now, on the ride itself, because you're moving so fast, they don't need to even have elaborate animatronic figures within this show building, this whole gravity box. It's a very tight coaster track. If you've ever seen the interior of Rock and Roller Coaster, it was shown in a very brief clip on Imagineering Story. And so there's not a ton of room to put a lot of themed set pieces around the track themselves, but I think there's potential here to dig into the Imagineering archives and pull out what they had plans for the Great Muppet Movie Ride and reuse some of those vignettes and pay tribute in a way to those original ideas that Jim Henson himself saw with his own eyes for a Great Muppet Movie Ride and bring those to Hollywood Studios in this Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets. So you could have, Fozzie Bear holding a bucket and almost tipping it over the track or something like that. They wouldn't need to be animatronics necessarily. They could be static figures because you're moving by them so fast that by the time you see it, you're not going to see it. And so you wouldn't even know if they're moving or not because it would light up and then go into darkness and you wouldn't necessarily see it. So I think that could work really well from a theming perspective. And from the loading bay area, you could do something very, very subtle here. And that is, it's already set like downtown LA, and we're going, out of a parking garage to the concert venue. And it seems like that's going to stay as the storyline behind the attraction. We're going to be heading across town to Electric Mayhem's concert, most likely. But when you're in that launch area, what I would do, this is just a little bit of armchair imagining on my part, I would put some LED windows where you've got Muppets kind of moving around in the windows, like the silhouettes of the Muppets, and doing like funny little vignettes in the windows to make it look like you're on an apartment complex on either side where you got Muppets. And within this loading area, within the security booth, you could reuse that and put Bobo the security bear as a limited motion animatronic in there reading the newspaper or something, just to add to that kind of Muppet theming for the load dock area of Rock and Roller Coaster. And then if they're in good working order and they can be maintained properly, but I would actually build out a kind of brick balcony and put Statler and Waldorf from Muppet Vision 3D and reuse those same animatronics in the loading bay area for the launch of this Rock and Roller Coaster. And I think nothing would be better than sitting there and just the moments before you take off 0 to 60, that Statler and Waldorf make one of their iconic one-liners, and you, as you zip off into the show building, you're laughing as, you know, you're laughing at one of Statler and Waldorf's jokes. And they could be making little funny jokes about how it's the same train every 60 seconds, it must be deja vu. No, you fool, we're stuck on a loop. You know, they make some sort of joke about that and say, we're still bolted to the floor. All those kind of jokes would work really well for this roller coaster. And then at the end of the roller coaster, as we come to the unload area, I would have that be Miss Piggy's dressing room and have it be a little reference to Muppet Vision, and make it that we've taken the wrong turning and we've accidentally blasted through a wall and we're now into Miss Piggy's dressing room there. And then Miss Piggy spins around and says in that iconic way, "Excuse me," as you unload from the roller coaster. I think that would be fantastic as an end to the roller coaster there. I would like to see, personally, little references to Muppet Vision 3D within this roller coaster as well. I think you could do a lot with this retheme. So I think there's a lot of possibilities there for Rock and Roller Coaster and the Muppets as well. Now, obviously, that's not rumours, that's just me speculating on theming wise, but you know, it's logical. Now, coming back to the description, they have stated that it's going to be some of music's biggest stars, which is the biggest hint yet that they're going to be well-known recording artists that are probably going to make cameos. And the most obvious way would be to have different pre-show studio pieces where, like, you don't know which music star is going to show up with the Muppets in the screen element of the recording studio. And if we're to just very quickly talk about which stars have had a history with the Muppets or work frequently with the Muppets, the ones that stick out first of all are Willie Nelson, Elton John, Lady Gaga, Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters. These are very well-established musicians who have all had fairly frequent interactions with the Muppets and like to do cameos with the Muppets. So Disney and Imagineering are trying to find artists to come and guest star in a cameo for this new Rock and Roller Coaster. I think those ones would be a shoo-in for this kind of attraction. Or maybe they'll go in a different direction with this and have some newer artists feature within this attraction as well, such as Miley Cyrus, Olivia Rodrigo, or Sabrina Carpenter. The reason why I bring up those three is because they've got that Disney Channel connection from their past. So potentially, you know, the door is open there for them to come and do a cameo in a new Disney park attraction like Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets. And then the other thing to talk about here is if they're having musical guest stars in cameos in what I think will be a brand new pre-show segment, and they'll probably change up the entire studio recording area to make it look like the Electric Mayhem have been there. On the Muppets YouTube channel, they've actually done covers of a lot of very well-known songs, such as Mr. Blue Sky, Jungle Boogie, Kodachrome, Smells Like Teen Spirit, On the Road Again, Bohemian Rhapsody. Obviously, that was a very popular one. I would really hope that we'd get something like Bohemian Rhapsody on Rock and Roller Coaster. That would be incredible. But they could use original Muppet songs as well. You know, we've got Moving Right Along, Mana Mana, Rainbow Connection, you know, like a rock version of that with Electric Mayhem. That could all work as well. I know when you ride Rip Ride Rocket over at Universal Studios, Rainbow Connection is one of those hidden tracks. And I know Rip Ride Rocket is actually going to be replaced fairly shortly at Universal Studios as well. So it would be nice to have that on Rock and Roller Coaster. But they might just do all new original songs for this attraction. I feel like personally that would be a mistake because we wouldn't know what the songs are. And the element of Rock and Roller Coaster that's so great is that the high speed thrill and knowing the actual song and being able to sing along to it whilst you're zipping around the building doing, you know, corkscrews and inversions on this roller coaster. That's what makes it for me. But we'll see what happens there in terms of the music. Then the other thing here is there could be a potential for, we know Jollywood Nights is a big ticketed event for Hollywood Studios, and Muppets Christmas Carol. And if they were wanting to boost attendance for Jollywood Nights, one of the simple overlays would be, if it's already themed to the Muppets, just switch out the soundtrack for Jollywood Nights to It Feels Like Christmas or Scrooge or any one of the songs from Muppet Christmas Carol and make it, you know, just for that like very short time for the actual Jollywood Nights party, a Muppets Christmas Carol coaster. That would be fantastic for Jollywood Nights. I think that would move the needle in terms of that. And then I know a lot of people are sad to also be saying goodbye to Pizza Rizzo over at Muppet Courtyard. But I think that already in the language there, in the official description, that Muppets themed merchandise will be found down Sunset Boulevard. That what else is on Sunset Boulevard is Sunset Market Ranch. And if it's already got the same menu as Pizza Rizzo, why not just do another Pizza Rizzo, but outside, you know, Pizza Rizzo Ranch Market instead, or Sunset Pizza Rizzo as part of that area, since it's got kind of its own kind of cult following now of Pizza Rizzo. Just simply retheme that to the Muppets, add some decorative elements to Sunset Market Ranch to reference the Muppets, and it would work. It really would work. And already, if you look at Catalina Eddie's, the menu is pretty much Pizza Rizzo right there. I'm showing it on the screen right now. So I would love to see that also happen. And I think if Disney did everything which I'm speculating on right now from the official description, I'm reading a lot of tea leaves here and having to read between the lines a lot, but if they do all of that in terms of the attraction with the show set pieces inside the attraction, the different musical stars for the studio segment, the themed guitar on the outside, and also retheme Sunset Market Ranch to kind of an outdoor Pizza Rizzo, I think a lot of Muppets fans will be extremely happy. I know I would be, knowing that the Muppets have that kind of presence at Hollywood Studios still. And so personally, I think there's a huge potential for Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets, but we'll have to wait and see how this all turns out. But now, it's over to you, the Waltineers. I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on Rock and Roller Coaster being replaced and rethemed to the Muppets on Rock and Roller Coaster? And what would you like to see within this attraction that would help make up for the loss of Muppet Vision 3D? And with that being said, that's everything for today. So be sure to subscribe down below, hit the notification bell, and also check out the rest of the videos on this channel. And if you've enjoyed this video for today, give this video a massive thumbs up. And I'd like to say a massive thank you to the official Waltineers over on Patreon for always supporting this channel. It's greatly appreciated. And a big shout out to the Waltineer Gold members that you can see here on the screen right now, and also Waltineer Diamond members JC Russell, Justin Tupper, Tim Parsons, and Clive Simmons. And with that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.